So guys, when Scott asked me to do this, I was really excited because the caveman astronaut dichotomy really sort of sums up a really sort of interesting inflection point that we're spending a lot of time thinking about at Adweek. The astronaut in us has made advertising almost blind. The world of interactive advertising it's at the beginning of its end. At the same time, there is more quality content, storytelling, caveman stuff out there than ever before in the history of man. And in the midst of this, you've got this $600 billion brand marketing ecosystem running around like chickens with their head cut off. They don't know what to make of it. So I'd love for you to do this as an all play. Where do you see the evolution of brand storytelling and marketing going in the next, say, 5 years?
Steve?
Well, thanks, Paul. I can only speak from my experience. One of the things that I know that we get a lot of brands coming to us, for example, on Modern Family, and it's just a cumbersome process right now, frankly. The network has to get involved and work it out with their sales team, and then the studio team, the studio has to get involved and make sure that everybody's getting their right piece. And then, of course, for us, we have to make sure that it fits the show, that we turned out 90% of the things because it'll feel forced. So I think, immediately one of the best things that can happen is that process is in some way, someone figures out a way to streamline it, because what will likely, what often happens for us is like we're working on a show and it shoots in a week or two, or maybe even we do a rewrite and it's later that week and they were like, okay, they need to go to a store. And someone could even say, hey, I'm going to the store, but it would be very easy for someone to say, well, I'm going to Target, and then we actually use Target, because that's the way you would say it in real life, and that would make it better for us. But then there begins the long process that usually can't be solved in time. So therefore, we go back to the generic thing or figure out something else to do. So immediately for me, just from my caveman perspective, figure out a way to streamline that process.
Yeah, there's lost opportunities. When I was doing a lot of television, there was always those, and you wanted to do, and you had to plan a long way in advance. Now, Rupert and I have been doing. Rupert dragged me into doing, I guess, sort of the commercial world a while ago, and not that I wanted to do commercials particularly, but he said, no, they're not really commercials. They're like branded content. I didn't know what that meant, so I said, cool. So didn't know, it's just commercials. But no, and then we did a couple of 90-second things, and then one piece that was longer that was fun, which was supposed to be 14 minutes, and then at the last minute they decided it was 4 minutes, and I went, oh, cool, after I just shot for 14 days. But it turned out really well. But then what we're pressing more for recently, and I think you'll see this a lot, is brands getting involved in so feature docs and things like this that you can really, we had a big brand come to us last year with a particular problem. And I thought of two solutions pretty quickly. One was a television show, one was a feature doc. And so I went off and sold the television show, and they would, oh, I said, no, it's sold, it's okay, don't worry about it. And it's going to press what you want. But then the feature doc took a long time to develop with them. But it does press, in a very interesting way, their agenda without putting their stamp on every frame. And I think that is I think, the future, as you did with Werner.
I think brands need to create entertainment and be storytellers. I think, at the moment, obviously people make ads, they interrupt the program, everyone gets turned off, everyone's decoupling from cable, all the stuff that we know. And I think there's real opportunities for brands to actually make entertainment, create a conversation around something. So, as an example, Netscout approached myself and Werner, and they said, we want to make an ad about the internet, and we want you to be in it. And Werner said, well, I don't really want to do that, I don't want to be in an ad, but I'll make a documentary about the internet. So we did that, and over various hurdles, we delivered a feature-length doc. We got it into Sundance, and we sold it. And the benefit for the brand is their impressions went up by tenfold. It became a huge bonanza for them in terms of impressions. I think they said something from 2 billion to 30 billion or something crazy. And the fundamental thing is there was no media buy, because when we went to Sundance, we sold it to Magnolia, and they were going to push the hell out of that, which they did. And the brand made money back. There's a real viable model there to do things like that. And docs are not prohibitively expensive. They cost about the same as a big ad. And significantly, you don't pay for any talent. So we had Elon Musk in that, and he didn't get a dime. So it's an opportunity for brands to get involved. Myself and Paul are doing
If you're willing to trust the talent, if
Exactly.
you're willing to say, okay, we're going to take a risk and go in a direction you want to go and it really excites you. That's the. I think
I wasn't invited to that.
Do you think that brands and agencies have started to shake off the fetish of data and technology enough that storytelling and our sort of biological and emotional imperative for storytelling is sort of creeping back into the craft of advertising?
for me.
Yeah.
So I think fundamentally you can do both. I mean, for example, today we've been talking about VR. We've been talking about getting multicultural filmmakers involved in things. We've been talking about data, et cetera. So as an example, if we were going to make myself and Paul are putting together a doc on global poverty. So we plan to make a feature-length global poverty doc, and then we're doing it in partnership with a brand called Global Citizen, who are major activists in the field and very authentic. And their goal is to end global poverty by 2030, and that's a commendable goal for a brand. So in terms of data, do young people support that kind of thing? Of course they do. I think the Brookings report said 90% of young people want to support brands that do good. In terms of how everyone works together, you make the big, inconvenient truth of global poverty, maybe we'll call it the convenient truth. And you make that, and you get that into Sundance. You get some Oscar-winning directors like Paul and everyone involved. And once you've made it and distributed, you can then do VR that shows what it's like to work, to live in a poverty-stricken place. You can get influencers involved supporting that, but you kind of need your platform to begin with. I think every brand can create a story universe, but at the moment, everyone kind of ducks it with a gadget or an influencer at the moment. So that's my thoughts.
Paul, how are you at all using data science to inform your storytelling?
I use it to usually keep the door open to my office. That's about it. Yeah, it's, no, that and the awards, which they also keep the doors open well. No, I mean, I like you, we're influenced by many things. Research has its own place. That's how we found this story that we're doing for this other brand. We knew we had a topic, and we didn't know what the hell the story would be. We needed to be an emotional story, and so we got a research team together, and they went out and they came back with an incredible story that hadn't been told. So research certainly is important. Data analysis, I don't know how we use that. No, I don't think you should pay any attention as a creator to what people are telling you the stories you should tell. I think you should tell the story you want to tell, and then you'll find somebody who wants to partner with that. If it's an emotional story, it's an important story, and that's whether it's in fiction, whether it's in adventure, whether it's in comedy, whether it's in docs. It doesn't really matter. You need, we love your series because we love your fucking characters. We care about them, and so if you don't care about the thing, there's no sense doing it.
Steve, you touched on it a little bit, but I'd love for you to sort of share any sort of really sort of important teaching moments or epiphanies that you had in introducing Apple into, or the National Association of Realtors into this show that is seen and beloved by millions and millions of Americans.
Well,
that's a pretty big responsibility.
yeah, in the case of Apple, ironically, which some people point to as our biggest product placement ever, we didn't get a dime. It came from, as our millennial speaker said, the dads who are into gadgets, and that was me. I love gadgets, and I knew that this, and we had a storyline in the, for example, the iPad episode where Phil needed to wait in line for a product that was coming out, and I knew the iPad was coming out because I follow those things, yeah. And we contacted Apple, and lo and behold, they came with a handcuffed case, and a month or two before it was released, and we shot that, and everybody assumed it was product placement, but that in that particular case, it was an extremely valuable free gift to Apple. I hope they have my address. And then like with the National Association for Realtors, again, that one was paid for, and it comes in very handy because we use it to be able to do bigger things on the screen. And it was very organic. I mean, right away we can see, because like we would ask them, like, what's the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor? And they would explain it to us, and we would go, what's the difference really? And we thought, well, that's what Phil can do. And
Perfect.
yeah, he can make it a big point of the difference, and that's funny enough as it is. So it fits right in. It's organic. So sometimes it really fits in. And in fact, then they liked that so much that they asked us to do a campaign, and we shot. I co-directed, and we wrote a bunch of spots with Ty Burrell as Phil Dunphy, and it was extremely successful. It was a wonderful tie-in. It just fits in kind of perfectly. So we like to do that when it's very organic.
Yeah, when it's early on, it's so much easier. I mean, when I was brought on, I was lucky enough to bring on to do the rewrite for Casino Royale, and I was writing that, and I got to a place where I was trying to, these two people had to meet on a train, they had to fall in love, and they had to try my conceit was, okay, how do you fall in love? There's someone who sees through all your armor, who you actually are. And so Bond plays poker.
Paul.
Yeah, thank you. I know. I don't. Yeah, I know. Thank you. And so Bond, tells Vesper who she is by the way she stands and dresses, etc. And then she turns around and does the same to him. And so naturally, he's going to wear a watch. So no one had to tell me to insert a watch in that scene. It was by the type of watch he had, which is in the script from the beginning. And then they went, oh, great, we have a watch sponsor. So, well, I know you have a watch sponsor. But I just had to change the name of it, and that was it. But so the earlier you can do it, and it becomes part of the character, the earlier you can get involved, and the better in these things.
Paul, the work you did for Canada Goose and Out There, really gorgeous. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But it was very successful in reaching the audience in an emotional way. But how do you balance that with the reality that company's in business to sell more jackets? How do you balance that?
Well, that was a case of they came to me and said, we want our story told of our history. And being a Canadian, having worn their products on the sets up in the Yukon when I was shooting, and way back when, and in Toronto in those bloody cold February nights, I loved their product already. And so that was an easy fit. And they said, we have these. They had a story sort of mapped out, and I went, great. And so I worked with their writer to hit the big highlights of their sort of the people who had worn them and survived in incredible circumstances. The interesting thing there is that we started out thinking that there was a 15-page script, and they wanted that shot, and which was. We went off to New Zealand to shoot it in the top of a. Oh, here's the other thing I love is they always come to you, and I mean, this is. I don't know how you guys live in this world, because they come to you. They think about this for a year, and they come to you in April and say, "Yes, now we want you to shoot in the Arctic with dog sleds." And I go, "Good. You know it is the summer up there, right? And dog sleds won't move. There's actually no snow even on the North Pole. There's very little. So we had to go to New Zealand to fake Canada." But so the fact that you take so long to make these decisions, and then suddenly we have to go shoot them immediately. But in that case, it was fun, and then it's telling us the emotional stories, and then that's the one that they wanted a 15-minute film, and then the last minute said, "Oh, it should be 4." I went, "Oh, really?" Okay, so we just cut it down in the editing room. It was a lot of fun.
Did the term ROI ever come up in that conversation?
What, sorry?
The term ROI?
No. So what is that, Paul?
I have no idea. Yes.
So lo and behold, feature-length doc film. Are we going to see more brands stepping up to that? Because that's a pretty hefty lift. And from your perspective, what's the spectrum of this going to look like in terms of brand storytelling? I mean, you've got everything ranging from Snapchat to this documentary. How is this going to sort of roll out, do you think?
I think the best people doing ads are Hollywood studios. I mean, Lego the movie and G.I. Joe, and they're all ads for toys. So I think more and more brands are going to get involved in that. I think, cars, for example, they're kind of big toys, really. So car brands could obviously be getting very involved in that space. They could be Transporter. In fact, the Transporter was lifted from BMW films. So Luc Besson looked at the higher films and made the Transporter the next year. And there's an opportunity for brands actually to make feature films. And the benefit of that, there's actual value. You can sell those, movie studios and television and so forth. You can't sell a 4-minute film to anyone. You have to do the media buy. So I think there are real opportunities for brands to get involved in the entertainment business. It could be scripted series, it can be television, it can be films. Obviously, it depends on the brand. So I think the opportunities are kind of endless in that space. And the fundamental thing is it's weirdly enough, there's no media buy. So 90% of a brand's money goes on that. And if you make something that people will pay to watch, then you don't have that situation. So, I mean, I think
And I think also it's not just putting the car on there, is what do they want to identify themselves
Exactly.
with? I mean, the one that we're doing for Johnson & Johnson has nothing, it is similar, but it's not, it's just their values are the same as these.
What are you doing for Johnson & Johnson?
Can't tell you.
You're not meant to mention it.
No, exactly.
And it's by the way, it's the gift that keeps giving because it airs forever.
Yes, exactly.
And that, unlike a commercial, that's a buy and it goes away.
And lo and behold is a good example. They were going to, drop $10 to $20 million on a media buy, and it would have been forgotten. I think there's some stat that you guys probably know more than we do, that 90% of ads are forgotten, or not even. They're like a wallpaper. People don't even.
Yeah, and this way you've got a product that lasts forever, as you said.
Yeah.
It's out there.
So in your process, though, how involved was NetScout, and how did you know when to involve them and when not to involve them? And was there any concern that there'd be this sort of brand stink on it that would ruin it?
Not really, because Werner's actually quite, is actually very reasonable, but he's pretty clear what it is. He's saying, "Look, I'm making a Werner Herzog film. I'm going to edit it." But within that realm, we sat down and we said, "Look, these are kind of stories we want to do." And obviously, they wanted to make the internet heroes, and we said, "We can't make them heroes. You're going to have a contrast." So, obviously, we had people with internet addiction and all sorts of fun stuff, and we had some positive stories about the internet. And it was really for them to create a conversation around the internet. And frankly, the brand had quite a good time because we went into Sundance and 90 of them came to Sundance. It was a very big van. And they had their annual conference, and they came to all the meetings. They were involved in the sale of the thing. Obviously, the agency was involved. Everyone was involved.
But they have to be able to trust. Is that
Yeah, they have to let go. Everyone has to let go.
Because they're going to give us final cut.
Yeah.
And so that's a big trust.
Yeah.
That's a big step. So,
But if you
so
establish what it is
they're not
at
going
the
to tell you
beginning.
how exactly that's going to be used there. And so.
And that's the key. I mean, you start with we work on if you're doing a doc, you bring in a research team and you find the stories, and then you say, these are the stories we're going to do. And it depends what comes out of their mouth. You don't feed them the stories and say, this is what you're going to say, which sometimes happens in ads. And if you have someone like Werner along, if you want to use his name to promote it, it's got to be his vision, really. So, and they're open to it. And we've done it a couple of times. We did a Don't Text and Drive film with AT&T, and it was very well received, and it can be done. And to be honest, if Werner can work in the brand space, it's anyone can, because Werner's quite iconoclastic, but he was willing to do it.
Steve, what do brands underestimate when they step into a world of creators and creatives?
Well, we're used to getting our own way,
Yes.
frankly. And I mean, ironically, I come from the ad world, so I was familiar with the process, and I was okay with it. I understood how it goes, but I think we can afford, especially when you come to it with a bit of credibility, you can afford to say, look, you came to us because, in our case, you like our show, you think we're funny, you have to now trust us.
Yeah.
And they have so far, and it worked out really well. I mean, I think that had we been a, commercial director that they hired, they might have been in there second guessing everything a bit more. But at a certain point, we're very cooperative and everything, and then every once in a while we'll go, bop, 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 back off. We got this. Trust us. If you're not happy,
Yeah, if you try to micromanage you, you're going to fail.
Yeah, because that's we make a show without you that you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you can trust that we can bring the same thing to your product.
We're almost out of time, so I'll make this my last question, and if you can all answer, that'd be great. I'll start with you, Paul. If you could purge one thing that's getting in the way of sort of really meaningful progress in this space, what would it be?
I think it's the same thing as studios, it's networks, it's agencies, it's folks thinking that they really need to put their own particular stamp on it. Then they have to be in that editing room, they have to be on that set, they have to make those decisions. You have to decide what you want, and then you have to trust a creative person that you've seen their work to actually execute that, and not worry too much.
There's just a legacy system in place that is it's designed on an old model, and it's like when a company has to change software and they're fading out the old way, and they want to still service those people, and finally at some point they go, stop, we're only going to do that. That operating system from that point on or whatever. I mean, we're in the middle of that change right now.
I can barely get anything on VHS anymore. I don't know about you. It's really hard.
So I think that's the biggest challenge, is that a lot of people have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new world, and it's confusing.
I think brands should be making sponsored entertainment and making proper length docs or TV or films, as opposed to making like 4-minute long ads and sticking them on YouTube and then buying likes. I think that's a flawed strategy. And hopefully more brands will do things that you can actually sell.
Okay, guys, I think we're out of time. Please join me in thanking the panel.